welcome to Basketball on Figueroa, the only podcast breaking down everything happening with the Lakers, Clippers, and Sparks. I'm your host, Edwin Garcia, and joining me today is Darian Vaziri, a.k.a. Dime Dropper, a.k.a. Beanie Wearer Rocker? What are we using for this beanie hat thing going on right now?
Beanie dropper? I don't know. I never wore beanies out, actually. Only in the house, believe it or not.
Yeah, well, we are in LA, so that would probably make sense.
Exactly. So,
all right,
how we doing though?
We're gonna start as we normally go. How you doing, Dime? And after that, we're gonna talk a little bit about future because I gotta get that in there. But first, how you doing?
A little bit better. Clippers are starting to win a couple more games. Thanksgiving week, so that's why actually, it's become I wouldn't say my favorite holiday. Maybe I'd say Christmas because I still get some gifts. You know what I mean? But even though, I'm Muslim, so we celebrate Christmas because my parents wanted to celebrate Christmas as a kid just because all my friends were going to do something, right? Can't be the only ones not doing nothing in America. So, but I've really grown to love Thanksgiving. And yeah, man, very thankful to be doing this kind of stuff and doing things that we love, talking about our favorite teams. And my favorite team is starting to do better these days. How about yourself? Lakers, 2 straight wins.
Yeah, 2 straight wins, 3 of the last 4, or I think 4 of the last 5, maybe even check that. But yeah, they got 2 wins back to back. We'll talk about those later. And yeah, overall same thing. Thankful, man. Like every year, like especially as you get older, you're like, man, just going around one more time. Like you're thankful for that because every year, that's not always guaranteed. We know that, right? Like so many people, don't make it the next one for whatever reason. So it's always a blessing, regardless of the highs and the lows. And then of course, like us, I try to make sure no one's really giving me grief for it, but I try to make sure I don't complain because I do have a quote unquote awesome life. And it's like, yeah, it's a lot of work. But we were just talking off the camera about like, oh, I gotta do this, gotta that. But like, again, I get to those things. Not that I have to. I get to. It's a gift. This game's giving me everything in my life. I live in Los Angeles. I'm covering the Lakers. I'm talking basketball. I'm writing about basketball. Like it's awesome. So again, it's a privilege to do these things. It's an honor to do them for the people that are interested. And it's a blessing, man. And yeah, same thing. You're agreeing to do this. I'm agreeing to do this. We're working on this. It's pretty awesome. So can't complain too much. And yeah, just thankful for the communities we're building and continue to grow. And hopefully we're lucky enough we get to be around one more time next year and do it again. And just like you, Thanksgiving's not my number one. I still think it's Christmas. That's just like for me. It's got everything. It's got the food still. It's got the gift giving. It's got the gift getting. And then, just the love and camaraderie and kind of like the, hey, we're going to wrap up the year. We're not working anymore. We're not going to school anymore. It's kind of got everything. But Thanksgiving is close. And I like Thanksgiving because it doesn't have, in some ways, I like that it doesn't have the gift thing. Thanksgiving is just about being around people that you care about and having a good time. That's really what it's about. Food's awesome. If you drink, that's awesome. If not, you're still hanging out. You're off from work. You're off from school, and you're hopefully around the people you care about. It's all good vibes for the most part. So, and since you don't have to spend as much money as Christmas, and there's not like that whole drop this and do this. It just has the good vibes for it. So it definitely has a lot going for it. So yeah, it's not my number one, but it's right up there, and they're bundled together, which is nice. And then you get football, which is cool because you just watch
I was going to say, though, Christmas that has the one trump card for us. It has Christmas basketball, and we usually get at least one really great regular season game, at least.
Yes, we do. But for me this year, it's either going to be one of the best or one of the worst.
You're covering it, huh?
Yeah, and which I'm totally fine with. I'm covering Lakers Celtics. Dime.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that.
If I have to write about the Celtics kicking the Lakers' ass on Christmas Day, that's going to be a rough one. I know you've done the walk of shame from crypto, and doing that with the Celtics winning on Christmas Day, that would be rough. Hopefully, hopefully LeBron doesn't let me down. I might have to tell him that off the record. I'm like, you let me down today, man. It's not a good Christmas for me, LeBron. We lost to Jason Tatum. This isn't what I wanted for Christmas. You know what I want for Christmas, but we'll get into that later. Before we get into the main games that happen, I have to elephant in the room, Dime. I'm getting to know you more as we do this podcast and learning more about, your style and what you are. And there's a couple things I want to say. I want to give Dime his flowers before I flame him real quick. Again, I do this professionally. This is my career. This is my path, right? Dime is one of the most intelligent basketball minds. He is a 1%er when it comes to basketball with his knowledge, with his basketball analysis, with his coaching style, his film breakdown, historian, all of that stuff. He is a 1%er. I'm telling you right now, that's just
Where is this going? But thank you. Where's the
100%. He's a 1%er in there. You can call me what you want. I have an opinion on me, but whatever. I know Dime is a 1%er. What I love about Dime that I no longer have just because it's kind of dulled, despite the fact that he's got that 1%er mind, right? He still has that lizard brain that when the game goes on, he's just like, go Clippers, and the other person can die. I don't care. I just want the Clippers to win, right? He still has that. I kind of lost that a little bit, but he still has it, and I love it about him. Why? Because we've been on this podcast now we're on episode 5. The last 3 episodes have been James Harden. Oh, I don't like this guy. Everything wrong about basketball. It's just tough to root for him, and I'm struggling with it, and we're losing. This is awful. So imagine my surprise when I open up Twitter.com, and what do I see? Dime walking out of crypto, face full of joy, like a child who got a bike for their birthday, and that's exactly what they wanted, and they got it, and they're just the exuberance is oozing. And not only that, the joy comes from what? A James Harden game winner. And not only that, this is the part where I was like, okay, and what's he doing? He's referencing a future Hendrix line, 13 strippers, James Harden. I lost my mind. I was cackling in my room, and I'm like, this is not what I expected when I opened Twitter. And you know, when you open Twitter, you don't know what to expect. Dime, before we get into all the other games, what was going on in that moment there? Break it down like a fraction.
It's so funny that you say that. I was so ecstatic because there were like 2 people in my comments that were like, "You don't even seem that happy, dude. Like, do you wish you had missed because you hate him so much?" I'm like, guys, you're insane. Like, I'm posting a video of me screaming. Like, I mean, that's interesting that you felt that I was that excited about it, because it was funny that people were annoying me with those kind of comments. But yeah, I mean, I always want to see my team win, and it was more than anything, it was really funny. I just thought because of exactly what you just said, like me coming out of Staples Center, Crypto.com Arena, getting excited about James Harden making a game winner as a Clipper. I mean, it doesn't get crazier than that. It's like just talking about real life stuff, but life is crazy, man. Like, in the same way that Laker fans are shocked that they ended up having LeBron, like, look at all these stars that have played for the Clippers in the last couple of years, whether they're washed or not. Like John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Rondo, like these guys that used to be all-stars. And then you got Westbrook and Harden that are still capable of playing at a high level. And then Kawhi and Paul George. I mean, just insane. James Harden being the newest one. It's just wild. So it was electric, sellout crowd at Staples Center. So got to be excited. I mean, I'm still a Clipper fan at the end of the day, so that's what matters most. And also, I was mainly excited too because the change in the starting lineup, which we're going to get to, that is what we were talking about for weeks, that needed to happen. Whether it be Harden that goes to the bench or Russ that goes to the bench, it had to happen. And I have more faith in the team now, so we'll get to that.
Okay, fantastic. So let's break it down. We'll start in order there. We had first, before we get to the winning, we got to get to the losing. So we had Clippers, Nuggets. I think we both had them losing that game. Obviously, the Nuggets, I mean, who's beating the Nuggets? Not that many people. So it wasn't really a surprise. I do think that they fought hard, in my opinion, from the game. You know, obviously, I wasn't rooting for them, but I was also watching it. And really, it was a pretty good game all around, very competitive. That's the one where we got the wedgie, right? We got the PG wedgie there.
Yeah,
it was close, and it was to tie the game. And talk me through that game, and then that play. Before the play happened, I had a vision of the kind of look I wanted to see the Clippers get, you know, for them to take it to overtime. I'd love to know what you thought, what you would run, or what you thought they should have ran, or if they did run the right thing. But before you get to that, just tell me about the game in general, and then let's wrap it up with that final play there.
Yeah, I thought at the time that was the best performance with Harden. It was his best game at the time. Had 21 points. I don't remember Russ having a very good game, but it still felt like the rhythm was just a little bit off from the 4 guys, you know, playing in the starting lineup. It's hard for everybody to get going. But without Jamal Murray, man, they're a totally different team, Denver. They're just not the same threat. I thought it was interesting that Reggie Jackson outplayed Russell Westbrook in the first half. I mean, Reggie Jackson, our fan favorite, one of the most beloved Clippers of all time. But overall, the criticism that the Clippers got was that Zubats had his best quarter in a while. In that third quarter, he actually held Jokic to an inefficient quarter. And then Ty Lue went small for the rest of the game, didn't play Zubats in the fourth. and Jokic was just dominating us on the inside, whether he was scoring one-on-one or getting double teamed. We had no answer for him, and we're getting tough shots on the other end, a lot of isolation. And I am happy that Paul George took the shot late in the game, because I've been talking about how I think that Paul is the better guy for the last 30 seconds. Kawhi seems to dribble too much and not create separation and not get as clean of looks. Paul George's size and his fluidity and his handle, I think, allow him, and just I think his legs don't go as quick, to be honest. I mean, Kawhi's been through so many injuries, as has Paul George, but we know there's a difference. So, yeah, Paul George is the guy I wanted. I was very encouraged, to be not very encouraged, but pretty encouraged after that game. I think my biggest takeaway was that Denver is just not the same without Murray. But Ty Lue made a mistake, not closing with Zoo. But then there was a lot of controversy that he didn't close with Russ again, right? So that was controversial, because we talked about the Memphis game, right? Last time when
correct, yeah.
And Russ didn't close,
Right.
So then he didn't close again, and the plus minus at that point, Russ was again positive in that game. So here's what it was: he didn't play that great, but he didn't play that well, I should say. But he had a stint in the second half where he was part of positive minutes. So, the pro Russ crowd was saying, his plus minus is better than Harden. He should start all this. The takeaway I had was this starting lineup is still not going to work. It can get better, but it's still not going to work.
Yeah. I had the same takeaway. Obviously, we both agreed that we thought there should be a change in the starting lineup. We'll get to that in a moment. So that remained true. This result definitely didn't help with that. I don't like to think of good losses, but if there's such a thing as a good loss, this was a good loss. Even though Jamal Murray, yes, without Jamal Murray, I've been saying that with about Denver in general, just like any team that's really vying for a title. There's a couple players you just cannot be without. If Jamal Murray's not in there, they're not winning a title, which, of course, I think he will be fine. I'm not really worried. But I'm just saying in general, he's out, that's it. Joker's out, that's it. And then really, they really also need those role players to be the best versions of themselves to win the title, but they're less important. Without Joker and Jamal cooking, it doesn't matter what KCP does. It just doesn't matter. They're not going to win a title because one of those teams you face will be healthy, and there you go. That's who you're going to lose to. So you're right. It's not the same Denver. But again, every game, we could do this till the cows come home for so many games, for so many teams. So you play who's in front of you, and that's most of them were there. So, ball up, right? No one's going to change for you if one of your main guys is out. You're going to play it. So I think it evens out in general. But overall, they competed well. They played hard. For that final play, I don't know. I was thinking of something. For me, honestly, I was looking for a corner three. I was looking for maybe like do a zipper cut at the top of the key and then aim for like a hammer screen and get a corner three. That's what I was envisioning. Like, I think you need a 3-pointer. How can you get one besides just like ISO on the wing and then like step back, which is kind of what they got there. So I wasn't the biggest fan of that move, but I get it. You give the ball to the player you trust and say, hey, either they're going to leave you one-on-one, and if help comes, you kick it out. So I understand. We've seen Kawhi do that before, and we'll talk about that one later. So I understand that concept. Give the ball to your main player at the end and kind of let them handle it. I kind of wanted more of a corner three was kind of what I was thinking. And again, the wedgie, of course, as you know, Paul George is going to get clowned for that. He had a great game, but again, people are they're looking for a reason. So that was, and it was a pretty funny shot. I couldn't believe it. I was at crypto because the Lakers were playing at the same time. So I watched that from the media area, and I had it on my laptop, and I'm like, that was just like, how could that have been the play? I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen? They're gonna go to overtime. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh, now it's a jump ball, and they don't get the jump ball. And I'm like, oh, what a mess. It was a very funny ending to the game, but ultimately it put them at 3-7 and kind of continued the streak. But I think at this point, at least for me, I got the sense of, okay, they're heading there. I know they're losing all their games, but we're knocking on the door of a Clippers victory. And one thing we were also knocking on the door for was the Lakers, right? They played the Grizzlies, and of course the Grizzlies have just been awful, to be honest. They're just a sinking ship that continues to sink. And the Lakers kind of took care of business there, 134-107. For this game, again, they're just too. The biggest takeaway I get is just that the Grizzlies just can't do anything right now. They don't have Adams, period. That's done. And then Ja's out until I believe it's 25 games, right? So I just don't know if it's going to matter when he comes back. How big of a hole are they going to get into? So why don't we start with that part? Do you think the Grizzlies season is kind of done just because they still have to play another dozen games or so without Ja?
Don't think it's done. I think there'll still be enough time where they have to. He's gonna have his work cut out for him, but they can go on a huge run. I don't know if they will. but I wouldn't count him fully out of the play-in just yet. I really wouldn't. As far as that game, it was just remember Marcus Smart got injured in that game. So when he
Yeah.
got injured, I was like, okay, it was literally like watching a G League team playing against the Lakers. And credit to the Lakers, as you said, you play who's in front of you, you take care of business, and they just smacked them. I thought it was, pretty over by halftime. Lakers had scored 74 points in the first half. So they were cruising. Wasn't really that close. AD had a double-double in 27 minutes. And I thought it was just a solid performance by everybody, including D'Lo, who had 24 points. Great to see that.
Yeah, great to see that from D'Lo. Yeah, it was everything was kind of humming and going great, which is why the next game when we get to there was kind of disappointing. But they did have a back-to-back. But before that, we also had the Clippers playing, and here it is, Clippers beating the Rockets. There it is. There was the game.
Oh, I thought we were going chronological though.
What was the one before that?
Well, wasn't Lakers Sacramento?
No, but wasn't the Clippers game first though?
We played on Friday and we played Houston. We literally just played them a couple days ago.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, so let's go. I guess I wanted to hold back on my disappointment with the back-to-back there.
And so both LeBron and AD played that back-to-back. So
we were talking about that.
Yeah.
It's been something that's been an issue that they're won't they every single night for like a week already. But every single night they've played minus that one time AD missed the Rockets game a couple weeks back. So yeah, we had the back-to-back. I was also at the back-to-back, so I'm there also doing it. Although obviously I'm not playing, so it's not as difficult for me to just sit there back-to-back nights. But that's what made it so interesting, right? You were just giving Anthony Davis praise for, hey, great game, double-double. Well, guess what? The next game, not so much. It wasn't too great. Lakers got beat. They didn't just get beat; they got smacked by the Kings. And again, sometimes it's not always if you lose; it's how you lose. And losing so decidedly, losing with Sabonis just destroying the Lakers. 16 rebounds, 13 and 19, 29 points. De'Aaron Fox had a pretty good game. Herder was like Hawks playoff Herder. He had 28 points, 6 for 11 from 3. And again, a game where Anthony Davis didn't play well at all. He was the worst version of himself, right? 3 for 9 from the field, 9 points, 9 rebounds isn't too bad, but it just was a very, very bad AD game. Just about as bad of a performance as you can see from him. And they just never really had a chance. They fell into a hole right away. I think they were down by as many as 19 in the first quarter, and not at the end of the first quarter. I believe there was like 4 or 5 minutes left in the first, and I'm like, they're down by 19. Like, how is this even possible? Like, this is ridiculous. And they just never really got into it. They did try really, really hard in the fourth quarter, which I was surprised by. Again, no moral victories, but kudos to him. I was 1,000% convinced we were done seeing LeBron AD. I'm like, look, they're getting smacked. It's the fourth quarter. LeBron already took his rest at the end of the third. Why put him out there when they're down by I think 15, 16 points still starting the fourth quarter? And one thing I saw when I was there watching the game was during the timeout before the fourth quarter started, LeBron actually kind of ran the team huddle. And in my mind, I'm like, is he actually going to go out there? And he was very playoff, let's go, guys. Like, he was screaming. He was animated. I'm like, is he really going to go out there? And then he went out there, and I was like, what? And they didn't make the full comeback, obviously, because we just said they got smacked. But they did fight, and they forced Sacramento to play the whole game because they got within single digits a couple times during that run. And just, it's just too much when you're down by, 15, 16 points in a quarter. It's too much when there's not going to be another quarter after that to overcome. But kudos to them again. It's not going to really matter too much in the big picture, but you got to take pride in the team saying, hey, we didn't quit, and fine, you're going to beat us. You're going to play all 48 minutes then because we're not going to let up. And credit to them, but obviously the main conversation about this game was Anthony Davis. So what were your thoughts here on this Kings-Lakers loss on a back-to-back?
Super entertaining game. Sacramento's pace was really bothering the Lakers. Like, they got out and ran on everything. It literally looked like they wanted to run them off the court because we know the Lakers, they're going to play slower. That's just what their team is going to look like. And I will say, Sabonis, he really killed AD in that matchup. I couldn't believe it. And, you said enough about AD already. Sabonis, one thing about him is when he gets that rebound and he can just dribble up the court and the Kings players just go, kind of similar to how the Nuggets can do it. But I would say even though Jokic is a better passer, Sabonis is quicker with the ball in his hands, just a better, more athletic, So
Yeah.
Sabonis, he can push that pace a little faster, and they get out and run Sacramento. And they'll shoot those transition threes left and right. They got great movement to their offense. But Fox, I don't think any Laker could stay in front of him. It was crazy. I mean, he is so hard to guard one-on-one. And Austin Reeves, LeBron, and AD were way too careless with the ball. You talk about worst version of AD. This was a terrible version of Austin Reeves to me. He was dribbling way too much and going nowhere. And I got to give credit to somebody who I think is looking much better defensively this year, and that's Keegan Murray on the Kings. He did a great job defensively on Reeves at the point of attack, getting over screens. And it just felt like Austin wasn't getting any separation at all. And LeBron, valiant effort as well, as you said. He had the triple-double. But 6 turnovers for him, 5 for AD. And then D'Lo, actually, in my opinion, D'Lo LeBron, you could argue, had the better game, but for what we expect from everybody, I think D'Lo actually was the best. But yeah, it was just the youth and pace of the Kings and their duo really outplaying the Laker duo. And I'd say, you can say Kevin Huerter and D'Lo kind of cancel each other out with their production, but even Harrison Barnes, I thought his defense was really good because they started switching him on to AD. So they would not, because Sabonis is not great in the pick and roll defensively.
Yeah.
But they were switching that Sabonis on a LeBron, Harrison Barnes on an AD, and LeBron was trying to give AD opportunities to take him in the post, and he really wasn't doing anything. So that was just a tough one.
Yeah, and I want to talk deeper about AD later. It's kind of like a main focal point, so we'll kind of move on from there. But no, all those points are valid. Harrison Barnes, yeah, I think he had a sneaky good game. Cam, yeah, like you said, De'Aaron Fox to me is, I would have to think about it, but just at this moment right now, I feel like he's the second hardest guard to guard next to Steph. He's just so athletic, so quick, so fast, so lethal, aggressive in the fourth quarter. He didn't have to
Luka? Do you count Luka?
If I don't think, I think of it more like as a 4, like a 3 and a 4, like a wing more than a guard. But if you're gonna name him a guard, then yeah, you're gonna put him above. I would definitely put him above De'Aaron Fox. But the thing is, Luka, he'll dominate you, but he dominates you slow. I think the hard thing about De'Aaron is you have to watch him. He's like a bee, just like Steph. You're like, I can't just guard you. You're gonna run here, run there. You're gonna just make it so taxing on me. I think Austin Reeves said, guarding Steph Curry is like being in hell, and that's why. It's not just the fact that he's gonna shoot lights out. It's like not only are you gonna shoot, you're gonna run here, this screen, off the ball. I gotta keep. It's an annoying thing to do, and then you're gonna hit the shot over me. It's like you could have just hit the shot without doing all this extra work, But obviously that's part of the creating the spacing and the redirection and all that. And De'Aaron Fox has a lot of that game in him. So Cam also was guarding him. He tried again his best. And as soon as I saw Cam, I'm like, look, I like Cam. He's done a good job so far. But I'm like, there's no way he's going to be able to guard De'Aaron Fox. I knew we were in trouble once I saw that match. I'm like, that's his assignment? I'm like, oh. And little did I know, actually, Sabonis was the one who really caused so many problems. So, yeah. All right. So that's the loss. That was an ugly loss for the Lakers. Moving on to more positive news now. Clippers, Rockets, right? 106-100. We talked already about the game winner there late, but how did the game feel overall, the general flow there? Because there were moments where it didn't look like we were going to be talking about a Clippers win, especially during that first half. So how did you feel throughout the game before we kind of get to those final kind of minutes there?
Well, the news, that came out that day.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Westbrook to the bench. They said it was that he volunteered. I heard from 2 different people, including one of the beat writers that came out on Twitter and just said, it's people's fault for thinking that he actually did that. So, man, I mean, I don't think Russell Westbrook did, to be honest.
Yeah, it's so.
And his body language didn't reflect that in the game. I mean, of course, he wasn't happy because he didn't play very well. But another game where he doesn't close, he barely plays in the fourth. And I know people were making a big deal about the clip, maybe a little too big a deal about it, but he was the latest to react to Harden's 3. Like the latest, it was almost like, oh, everybody's getting hyped. I should get hyped too because they're going to try to make a big deal of it. Like, seriously, I'm not saying that's what he did, but that's what it seemed like. And his body language didn't reflect. I mean, think about it. Just put yourself in Russ's shoes. He comes to the Clippers and he's promised the starting spot. He gets his fun playing basketball back, his joy back, as they say. And then he's down for Harden because I guess he's friends with him and stuff like that, hoping it could work. maybe not thinking that he's going to get demoted, which might be a little naive of him if he didn't think that. But now he's on the bench. It's like he's almost getting replaced for Harden. Now he's backing him up. And remember, this is a guy that was Harden's starter back in Oklahoma City. So it's a little tough, to stomach that. And all the numbers, the metrics, I know it's a small sample size, favored Russ with Paul George and Kawhi starting. But we traded for Harden. We didn't trade for Russ. We got him back on the cheap. We got him on the cheap. So, and you can, Harden's the better player right now. Is he the better fit? I guess we'll never know because now Harden's starting. We didn't really get as much of that big of a sample size with Russ, really. So it is what it is. This is the decision they've made. And then now it's all about if Russell Westbrook can buy into this because with the Lakers, yeah, he tried his best as that 6-man role, but he clearly wasn't happy. And you can see that from his body language in every way. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so let's start with the don't believe the report, thing that you said. So obviously I can't comment. Well, one, I'm not as glued in with the Clippers inside as I am with the Lakers inside. And two, yeah, it's always tricky when you're like, okay, I mean, that is what was reported, but I wonder, and that happens a lot. That happens with trade rumors. That happens with health updates. There's sometimes they're like, oh, I feel great. I'm like, yeah, you're not going to play today. Like, I know you're not like, why are we doing this whole little, game? But obviously, selling the story is also part of it. And of course, if he said it, even if I'm extremely skeptical, I'm like, well, I have to report what you said. You said that you did. Okay. I mean, I can't, if I cannot prove or go on the record for the opposite reason, then I'm just going to have to reluctantly accept that as the answer. But like you said, it definitely was a lot of bad optics, the late reaction, the skepticism, and then not talking to the media after a victory, right? That's the thing. All those things kind of add up to it's hard for me to buy even what's being reported because I'm seeing evidence contrary to the fact. And I think that's another one with Russ, the not talking to the media. And of course, I understand why he didn't want to hear those questions. But
right,
again, it starts to look like there's something to hide when you're starting to not, even if it's not true, that you're not as receptive to certain things. It's like, oh, well, if everything's cool, why don't you want to talk to us?
We broke a losing streak. You know what I mean? I know Russ didn't play that great, but it couldn't have been that annoying.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of like raised eyebrows. I think part of me thinks Russ will work it out. I'm not sure what he thinks. I think, Carmelo went through this during the later part of his career. And Russ is, to be clear, at a better part than Melo was at that time. But Melo had to kind of humble himself and say, hey, if you want to be in the NBA, humble yourself. Just hit your threes. You're coming off the bench. That's your role. And, it took him a while. He was out of the league for a minute because he wouldn't accept that, right? And then he realized, okay, it's that or nothing. Let me do that. Again, Russ is not at that level, but there is kind of a transition, except for people like Jordan, Kobe, and it looks like LeBron, who never have to deal with it. Other than that, every star, if you want to keep playing, you'll have to deal with that. Or you have to decide, hey, the minute that I'm becoming a bench player, whether I agree or not, I'm out the league. So it's up to you. And Russ will have to make the decision for himself. Is he willing to maybe accept a lower role than he feels he deserves? Or is he going to say, you know what? Then I guess I'm done. Just like kind of AI's career could have been longer if he accepted some of those things as well. Like these players who have like this tremendous stature, they have to decide if they're going to humble themselves and do that. I remember Kobe kind of mentioned it. Obviously, he played 20 years, so he didn't really need to worry about it as much. But he did say, I'm never going to be the 8 points a game guy. Like, that's not going to be me. If that's where I'm at with my career, then I'll retire because I'm not going to do that. And he stuck to that. Obviously, he played 20 years, but he never had to do that. And he knew he was never going to because his pride wouldn't allow him to stay in the league 2 or 3 extra years and, play for the Wizards for 12 minutes a game. He was never going to be that guy. So Russ has decided if he's going to be willing to take not a 12-minute role, but maybe like a 25 and live with that. I think he will because I think he can. I think if he does accept that role, it opens up like you said, an opportunity for the Clippers to come back to being a deep playoff contender, maybe Western Conference, contending team, a top team. And again, if you stay healthy, you never know what's going to happen with the Nuggets, the Lake. You have a chance. The West is kind of open besides Denver. So if Denver slips, it's really open. So I think he will eventually embrace it. But this is definitely something to keep an eye on as we move forward. And that's the whole thing, like you mentioned, with getting something like Harden. It does create tension. And if it doesn't go the right way, it can be a disaster. If it goes the right way, this could be the most successful Clippers team of all time. But the scary thing is both of those possibilities are true at this point. Both are really possible. Door number one is like championship aspiration. Door number 2 is implosion. And right now, I wouldn't be surprised if either one happens. So we're gonna have to wait and see. That's gonna be sort of exciting there. Okay. Moving on from there, we have the following Lakers game, which was, let me see, we after the back-to-back. I lost my place here. That was the we had the Portland game. So the Portland game was interesting because I'm not sure how the Lakers felt, but the last time that the Lakers played Portland, Anthony Davis wasn't available, and Sengun just ate them up. So I was like, I really hope AD is going to play, and especially after that poor performance. And there was a little bit of comments on, hey, his hip, maybe that was the factor, and he kind of mentioned that it was hurting him. And you did see him. I saw him on the court a couple times, kind of a little slow to like move around a little bit, and he did like kind of massage his hip. I saw him like during huddles, he would like kind of rub it a little bit. You could tell it was bothering him. But also the medical people during that loss against Sacramento, they came up to him a couple times and he brushed them off immediately. The minute they came by to be like, hey, are you? He's like, no, I'm good. Forget it. And he did say after the game, it's bothering me, but it's not an excuse. And like, I'm going to keep playing. And to his credit, he did. Against the Trailblazers, he played. And the Lakers, this time around, they won. This was also an NBA in-season tournament game. And the Lakers have, for whatever reason, they really like these in-season tournament games. They've been like killing those games. And this was no exception. 107-95. And what I loved about this game as well was we got another just dominant LeBron game. AD had a bounce back game, but LeBron was just on when he was incredible, especially third quarter, fourth quarter. He just put on a show, 35 points, nine assists, 5 rebounds. He was just sensational. Highest plus minus, I believe, in the team with plus 18. And what I like about this year, I think this is the first year, I don't know, maybe it's just my imagination, but I feel like this is the first year where LeBron's just getting flowers and almost like no hate, because people are like, okay, this is now we're getting to like ridiculous levels of just like utter dominance. And clearly the main reason the Lakers are winning a lot of these games because of his position as well, where he's the driving force running the offense. So have you noticed that? Do you see a lot of LeBron hate still like on a night-to-night basis? Because I feel like it's gone down a lot. What's your experience just like social media and just like people you talk to around the league about LeBron, his play so far this year?
It's about the same. Honestly, I still see the hate. People are just gonna still hate on him. But I would say it steadily goes down each year by a little bit. Just because it's like, look how long he's doing this. And that's actually the only Laker game out of the last week that I missed because I was at the Clipper Rockets game. But I did see that LeBron hit 3 threes from the left wing. And I've noticed that he's been hitting it from that particular spot a lot this season, the left wing. And as you said, with LeBron handling the ball more, I think that really was increased when Austin Reeves went to the bench, because now you have 3 shot creators in that starting unit, but you have 2 guys that are not going to shot create. They're just going to feed off of those guys in Torian and Cam Reddish. So now it's really either you're initiating with AD or with D'Lo or LeBron. And of course, LeBron being the better option, you're going to run him in more pick and rolls. You're seeing him do more pick and rolls with AD. So that's always going to be beneficial, because it felt like the Lakers had gone a little too far away from LeBron AD pick and roll. That's still easy offense, and you're going to get good options from that every time. So, yeah, big time game from Bron. And, yeah, the in-season tournament looks like the Lakers are making a run for that inaugural title.
Like I told you, if we win it, it breaks the tie against the Celtics.
Oh, my God.
Well, it doesn't break the tie. It gives us a tiebreaker. That's what it does. We'll still tie for 17 titles, but we're the most successful franchise in NBA history because we do it for the cup, you know? Like that's the NBA Cup. That's what we do it for. But yeah, about those wing threes, you're seeing a lot more of those because of the 5-out offense that Ham is kind of gone for over the motion. That they're aiming for that kind of shot. They're aiming for those wing threes, whether that's LeBron, whether that's Torian, whether that's Cam, whether that's Austin. So you're seeing a lot more of that because the offense is kind of designed for more of those looks. And then obviously LeBron has been hitting them, and then he's going for them. He's slotting himself in that position. They're getting pick and rolls on the opposite side. They're kicking the ball there. So you're going to see more of those attempts. How much the conversion is going to be, especially on the Lakers, who are like one of the worst shooting teams right now, at least from the 3-point line still, because even though they've gotten hot a few times, they've really had some really, really bad 3-point shooting nights. But that's the design. They want to get more threes. They want to get more threes, particularly from those sections, from the corners, from the wings. Not so many from the top of the key, really, but from the corner and the wing spots. And in the motion offense, as you know, you're going to have a lot of opportunities for that. That's kind of what it's designed for. Spread it out and you cut, you crash, use the pick and roll, use the big man as a floater. You can also easily switch back to the 4 out 1 in by just putting your big in the paint. So they're trying to work that out, but so far it's been pretty good, and this was a great example, winning the game 107-95. All right, and the last Lakers game from this past week was Lakers Rockets. That just happened last night for us when we're recording on Monday, so that was on Sunday. 105-104, the slimmest of margins, and of course, everyone was talking about it. LeBron and Dylan, the villain, Brooks again. Another fantastic LeBron showing. I mean, he was just incredible. He had 37 points. So again, he's just been just on one lately. Eight assists, 6 rebounds, and he was like just bullying Brooks. He was just spamming, especially late in that third quarter. I remember he had that runner, I think with like 3 minutes left, and then he did the too small move. And we've all seen a player get excited and cook and do the too small, but that was about the pettiest one I saw, because he hit the runner, he went to the corner, and normally when you do the too small, you bend down a little bit. He literally put his hand as close to the floor as possible to show how small was too small, which I thought was hilarious. And then he still ran to get back on D, so he wouldn't end up creating a fast break for Houston. So I found that to be hilarious. It was just so petty to do the too small, literally as small as possible. And then, of course, more importantly, the Lakers won. He stayed aggressive in the fourth. He technically hit the final free throw to get it. And then, again, it's kind of poetic, right? Brooks had a desperation 3. LeBron contested it. It just barely hit the backboard. The Lakers win. So 105-104, Lakers win. Back to the winning ways, back-to-back wins there, and then more importantly, they got the win over Houston. So that was kind of the end of that, and it creates this tension, this drama. Afterwards, LeBron talked about, it's good for him. He likes it because it gives him kind of like that extra juice. LeBron's played thousands of games at this point, like thousands and thousands of games. So anything that can kind of get him a little bit more going is going to help, because again, this is just a November Sunday night game. But then this guy's over here talking smack. It kind of gives him enough of that edge to be like, okay, do you really want to go there? Because I can go there. And I like how Rui Hachimura post-game talked about, for LeBron, this is another game. And for Brooks, like, this is like his legacy. Like, can I irritate LeBron and get the win? And, shout out to Brooks, because he actually had a pretty good game. He just didn't have enough. And the Lakers had enough in the end to get it done. So what were your thoughts here of this game and of the whole, like, LeBron versus Dylan kind of matchup there?
Super exciting. Anthony Davis started out the game really well at 8 points in the first quarter, but the Lakers were really struggling in the beginning to hit. And LeBron, I think, had 2 really, really good quarters in this game, the second and the fourth. I think he was kind of the stabilizing presence in that second quarter. After Ham, surprisingly to me, went with AD and LeBron on the bench together for the last 2 minutes and 44 seconds of that first. But LeBron came in, restored order, was being aggressive. But I think what's amazing is the growth of Houston and how they've become a serious basketball team with a couple of additions, none of which were all-stars last year. Fred VanVleet was an all-star 2 years ago, but he's one of those guys where he probably won't make an all-star team ever again, I don't think. I think he's just going to be a very good player. There's just too many good young point guards in the league to me. But the Rockets were hitting the threes. Lakers could not buy a 3, but they got to the line more. And I thought in the third quarter, things changed when the Rockets were just turning the ball over way too much. And AD had 13 in the third. LeBron had 13 in the fourth. So your 2 stars came to play. Looked a little sketchy there at the end when AD got fouled out. But better game from Austin Reeves in this one, was hitting those pull-up mid-ranges coming off screens. And the Lakers overcame poor shooting from Reddish and Taurean Prince. Even Hachimura took some really tough, ill-advised shots to me, tough contested jumpers. But LeBron, such a solid overall game, was even playing solid defense, getting to the basket. And when he hit that turnaround over his left shoulder, because he doesn't usually shoot turnarounds over left shoulder. Right shoulder, he's gotten so much more improved over the last 6-7 years. But when he's doing that, that's when I know he's really hot. The little leg kick in the corner. And that dunk he had where I don't know what the Rockets were thinking. There was no show at all from Şengün. Just let him red carpet run down
right to the middle.
Figueroa, man. And he elevated. And how was the atmosphere in there? I mean, when he was going off like that, you were there, right?
So no, I'm not there for Friday and Sunday games. So those are my days off. So those 2 I wasn't, and obviously that was a Sunday game, so I was not there. From everything I heard and saw, it was, I mean, it was electric. I actually talked to some of the beat writers. After I'm like, hey, yeah, they saw that I was there. I'm like, hey, I was. They were like, oh yeah, it was crazy in there. So yeah, I do know the vibe was electric. And you can feel it sometimes when crypto gets to that level, you can even hear it off, from home, just like the playoff games. You could tell those playoff games were like, oh yeah, it's been a while since there's been a Lakers playoff game. Like you could tell that the fans were into it, and the fans can't stand Dylan. So again, he's out there. It's not just, and that's what like the momentum that it creates, right? There's a little bit of a rivalry there. LeBron's going at him. They can't stand Dylan. LeBron's scoring on him. They're getting into it. He's getting into it. Everyone's getting into it, and then the momentum rises, and you're kind of having a moment in a game that should just be like, 1 of 82 on a Sunday, like evening, right? It became a little bit more, and then it was close, right? Like you said, Houston did start off pretty well that first half. They had like 8-9 point lead at a certain point. It would look like, oh man, what's going on with the Lakers? They're not, again, 28-20 in the first quarter. It's like, come on, let's do it. And like you said, they stabilized things in the second. And the Rockets didn't go away. And again, one thing that I'm impressed about with Houston this year is the defense. The defense is so much better than it was last year. That's really the difference to me. That's what's caused such a remarkable improvement. It's been defensive attention has just risen to like levels that we just did not see at all last season. And because of that, they're staying competitive. They're staying in games. And when you try hard and give your best effort night in and night out, which is difficult to do in the NBA because it's such a long season, but if you do that, you're gonna win. You're gonna win like about 10 more games than you're supposed to because you just gave an effort the other team's gonna concede sometimes. And even for the Lakers, it was a good game, but they won by one. It went down to the wire. They had to push them, and the Lakers were just good enough to get it. But yeah, you're right. The 3-point shooting was awful. Christian Wood was another player that we haven't mentioned. He was 0 for 3 as well. They couldn't buy a basket, like you said. Reeves did hit that big three, in the final minutes there to kind of give the Lakers a little bit of a cushion, and then Houston responded, and then LeBron finished it off with that free throw. So they were pushed, they were tested. Great LeBron game. Very, very good AD game, and the Lakers were able to pull it out. So, overall happy with those results there for the Lakers for the most part. And the final game we're going to talk about here is actually one I did miss because I was doing some other work. So I didn't watch Clippers Spurs that just happened tonight. So, Dime, why don't you lead the way here? Tell me what happened here with Clippers Spurs.
The Spurs without Devin Vassell are going to struggle to win any games. If Wemby's not hitting his jumper, then it's kind of cooked because they don't have very good guard play. They don't have much shooting. And Wemby, his one-on-one game is not really – I don't want to say it's not there because he's skilled, but against – what's going to happen with Wemby right now is you're going to put wings on him, right? Athletic wings. Mm-hmm. And if he can't bully them and get by them because they're quick, then he just has to shoot over the top. If his jumper's falling, he'll have a decent game. If it's not, then it's not going to be that effective. So we held him to another inefficient game. We just have way more talent. James Harden had an amazing playmaking game. Russell Westbrook and James Harden combined for 16 assists with 0 turnovers. That's going to be rare. So you can enjoy that. And it's just the balance is so much better when you have one of them on the bench. The only thing is Ty Lue has still played them together in these games for a little bit, which I don't really like. But just taking them out of the starting lineup that first 6 minutes of each half, it really allows Kawhi and Paul to get more shots without having to worry about deferring to another guy. And Kawhi finally had a game with Harden where he shot over 16 times in this one, shot 17. And Paul George had a very quiet 28 points, but he was 11 for 16. I know that sounds weird, but it didn't feel very in your face. But James Harden, he had some amazing passes in this game. And San Antonio's offense is not really going to scare us. So I thought we played decent defense, but didn't really get tested. But man, you can see the offensive pros of having James Harden on the team, as a third option. It's a great role for him. And Westbrook had a decent game, had the first 8 points of the second quarter off the bench, taking advantage of the smaller Spurs guards. So he seemed a lot happier in this game. So you know what it really is? It really just comes down to how Russ feels about his own performance. That's what it really is.
That's true. When he plays bad, it's rough. He can be difficult because he's also frustrated. So yeah, maybe it's that too. We were reading too much into it. It's like, well, yeah, we won, but I didn't play well, and I'm frustrated with myself. And it's maybe not in a selfish way, but just in a like frustrated with my own performance way.
But it is valid in the sense that you could make an argument that his chances of playing well are better in the starting lineup. He's playing with better players. He's been used to starting his whole career, and he gives you the energy to begin games. That's really good. But I mean, you love the 16 assists to 0 turnovers thing, but I think something that stood out in this game that we haven't even talked about in this episode, Clippers picked up Daniel Tice to give Mason Plumlee some, relief. We don't have any replacement for Mason Plumlee that he's out for 2 months. And in this game, he literally looked like 2020 Boston Celtics Tice. Like he was finishing every floater. He made a pick and pop three. We have no bigs on the team that can shoot. 8 for 10 from the field. He was playing good defense. And he looked like he was more confident than Zoo in terms of catching the ball and going up quickly. He made some good reads in the short roll. I mean, if he continues, I know it's the Spurs and it's one game, but if he continues, Zubats and Mason Plumlee better be careful because, I mean, he could be a godsend. Who knows?
Yeah, Zoo's disappointing me this year. Like, I'm sure if I look, I'll find a good Zoo game, but I feel like we're not getting any good Zoo game.
The best game he had in recent times was the Houston one. I failed to mention that he had a really good fourth quarter. And in this game, he was better in the second half. He had a double-digit rebound game, but he was okay. Again, in this game, he's not really getting tested really that much. So I thought he was decent in this game, but I will say last 2 games he's been trending upward. So that's not a bad thing. But yeah, before the Houston game, he was playing some of his worst basketball he's played in years.
Yeah, in long stretches. At this point, like you said, it's not a big sample size, but it's big enough where we can start to be like, okay, what's going on?
A lot of Clipper fans are thinking that Zoo might not be good enough to start on a championship contending team. A lot of them are questioning that for the first, more so than ever before. There's always been the Zoo skeptics, but it's getting louder.
Yeah. When he was a Laker, it was the same thing. I mean, he didn't have that big of a role because he was so young. But there was like, hey, is this guy even any good? And I was thought, oh yeah, I was 100% upset when that trade happened. I'm like, how could we give up Zoo? I was okay with trading him away because he was young, but not for what it was. And all. I was like, this was definitely a fleece, which I understand. Magic messed up there. Because I think he can be. It just depends. He's not like a shoo-in. Like I don't think you could say, oh, Zoo can be on any championship team. Maybe not, but I think you can definitely have him as a starter. There have been worse bigs starting on championship teams. So it just depends on what the other personnel is. And obviously he has to step up. And I think I still feel like we've seen enough Zoo to see what he really is. And he's been better than what he's shown. But, it's a new year. We'll see. I think let's see another 10 games or so. And if he still really isn't like stringing together games, that's when I'll be like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but like this ain't your year. Something's up. There might have to be some changes. But for now, it's one of those like keep an eye on and let's see if he plays more like the Zoo we know versus the Zoo we've been seeing. Okay, so before we get into upcoming games, I want to talk a little bit more about Anthony Davis because his poor performance in that loss, it kind of showed me those back-to-backs kind of showed you kind of both ADs. We've talked about AD so much, on the pod for good reason. He's allegedly the Lakers' best player, and he's so important. Even if he's not number 1, he's number 2, and that's really important. Like I said, him and LeBron, just like Jamal and Joker, those are the guys. They're not there. This is all a waste of time. They're not winning anything without those two there. And we saw such a visceral reaction from AD's poor play. That I was inspired to actually write about it. I wrote on Silver Screen and Roll. I wrote. I love the title. Obviously, I wrote it, but I thought it was a really good one. I put why every game is a legacy game for Anthony Davis, and that's really how it starts to feel. It feels like when he plays good on Twitter, you'll see, this is why the casual doesn't understand. The destroyer of worlds, Anthony Davis, top 75. He's better than LeBron. It's his team now. Don't you see it? And then when he plays bad, like he did against the Kings, you see the opposite, right? That's why I told you he's not him. Every other day, Davis, there he is. If he's hurt, he shouldn't play. Look, he's soft. I told you, all that money. He's not worth the money. Overpaid. I even heard it at Crypto. I could hear like the fans were like the boos started happening. I'm like, what is going on? Like, guys, he just dominated less than 24 hours ago. I get that we're frustrated. I understand. I'm not trying to absolve him, but we act like he didn't play yesterday and destroyed the team. Like, what's going on? So I want to break that down a little bit and kind of get your opinion. Why do you feel like it's so divided when it comes to talking about Anthony Davis just in general?
Because I think people hold him to such a high standard because we know how talented of a player he is. And it's never the defensive stuff that people criticize. It's the offensive motor, his aggression and appetite for scoring. But I think one thing that is really important to acknowledge is that he doesn't have the same jumper that he had bubbling before. He
Mhm.
doesn't look as fluid. I mean, he still looks as fluid as it gets for like a big whatnot. But if you go back and actually just watch the highlights of him in New Orleans, he's moving with a lot more pep in his step, quicker off the bounce, just more fluid, maybe a little thinner as well. And the main thing is, despite all that, I mean, that's normal with all the injuries he's had, but it's the jumper. If he still had that mid-range jumper that's consistent, I think he wouldn't have as many of those bad games. But it's really the motor to me with AD. It's how badly he wants it because you know how aggressive he could be. For example, against Houston, 8 points in the first quarter. It was just all activity. Yeah, he scored 2 baskets off the pick and roll, but one offensive rebound, one just running the floor hard. It's just that's what it is with AD because you know how he can be when he's really playing his hardest and he's on some I'm the best player type of thing. Then there's
Yeah.
those other games where sometimes it feels like, and I've always said this on Dime Dropper, he needs a bad game to play well again. And that was a huge topic of discussion in the playoffs last year. But overall, I think he kind of quieted those talks because of how impactful he was defensively. But it's those kind of games that Giannis doesn't really have, right? And even though AD some like his skill set better, it's that
Mhm.
motor from Giannis that has kind of killed that comparison, the last couple of years. And it's those kind of games that make people say, well, it's still LeBron's team. And so far this season, I think LeBron's been better. I do.
Yeah.
But
Even though AD, not that we're stat watching, but even though AD has got more points and more rebounds per game, you still say
does he
LeBron's
actually?
been better?
Oh, mate. Well,
I
then
believe so. Let me look it up.
if
But
that's the
I'm
case,
pretty
if
positive.
that's the case, then it's even because I figured the stats would favor LeBron because defensively it's no comparison. Like LeBron has had some bad defensive games, whereas AD literally is like even his worst defensive game is still pretty decent. Like if it wasn't for Anthony Davis, man, Laker defense would not be that good. Their point of
No.
attack defense has not been that great so far this season. Like whoever thought that Cam Reddish would be like the best point of attack defender right now? Seriously, I mean, I said Dennis Schroeder would be a loss at the point of attack, but I think it'll improve with Vando. But I think Dennis was a loss in that department. But yeah.
No, yeah, 100%. Okay, I'm pulling up the stats now. So right now, oh no, LeBron's got him on points, 26-22.
Oh,
But
see, there you go.
LeBron,
4 points
yeah,
is fairly significant. So yeah, I'd say
yeah,
LeBron has been better by a little bit, but it's close. I'm not saying it's like, it's very
yeah.
close.
And AD leads the team in minutes with 35.7, and obviously he's well above rebounds with 11.7, and he leads the league in blocks. He's number one block getter. Any way you look at it, per game, totals, all of it, and it's a decent margin for how many games it's been. So, like you said, defensively, and that's the thing I get frustrated with too. We all do it. We don't talk as much. Defense is so much harder to discuss because the stats don't tell the story. The only stats we really
Yeah.
have that everyone understands is blocks, steals, rebounds, right? But defense is so much more. It's switching, it's discouraging, it's redirecting. There are so many times Anthony Davis just forces a miss because players get happy feet, right? They hear him coming and he's not even there, or they adjust a shot, or they just don't even shoot it because they see him there and they kick it back out and then the shot clock expires. And there's more nuance to defense. Offense is easy to understand. I
Definitely.
scored the basket. I'm a good offensive player. It's pretty simple, right? On defense, you got to do a little bit more work, and we just don't have stats for like discouraging of a shot, right? It's a hard thing. Or you missed because I rushed you because you saw me coming on the weak side, and even though I didn't actually do anything, I just was showing up. It rushed you. We don't have numbers that kind of exemplify that we all understand, and we're like, okay, cool, no, this makes sense. But even with that, we still have the block number. Okay, he leads the league in blocks, and yeah, that's half of the game is defensive. So that's something that definitely, I don't know how we can get better at that, just all of us, but that's definitely something I would love for us to do more of, because there's plenty of stuff to learn the offense, but on defense, we just don't appreciate it as much. And that's on all of us to kind of get better at. But I think the other thing too that's interesting about AD, like you said, he does have those nights. He either needs to be more engaged offensively, he needs to be more aggressive. And Reeves talked about it too, that the guards, that's our job. We need to get him involved because we know he's like that. And whether that's calling for him to do pick and rolls, whether that's feeding him the ball more. He only had, I think, 9 field goal attempts. He's not going to score that much if he's only going to shoot 9 times. So that's on him, and that's also on his players. They have to feed him the ball. How many times do you know this? That's the number one thing bigs complain about, right? I don't care if we're playing pickup.
Yep.
I've never played a game of basketball where a big hasn't came up to me and be like, hey man, give me the ball, right? They always think that, but they need the ball because since they don't handle it, it has to come to them. And the only way it comes
Right.
to them is either get the rebound or I have to pass it to you. So that's as you know, the number one complaint bigs have is, hey, I'm cutting, I'm putting my hands up at the block and you're not seeing me, and like I'm getting frustrated. Feed me the ball. So Reeves kind of talked about that as well. We have to do stuff to get him involved when we know that's happening, because if not, he's getting discouraged or he's not as aggressive, and then we're not feeding him. It starts to cascade into like an off night. And the interesting thing about AD, and this will I think be true for the rest of his career at this point, is that if you think he's like trash or whatever, you're going to have games like this to prove it. And if you think he's one of the best players on the planet, you're going to have the games like the night before to prove it. And that's kind of the duality of AD. He's going to give you those, whatever your opinion of him is, you could make a 20-minute YouTube video that makes you look right. And there's also a 20-minute video that can make you look wrong. So you kind of have to see it. I think day to day, that's what I was kind of getting at with my article, is that when you add it all up, there's like 60 good games and 20 bad games. And I feel like the 20 bad ones, they get so loud. I'm like, well, actually, if you keep track, like, right, we've talked about all these games. Tonight, we talked about one bad AD game and two really good ones and one decent one. You'll take that from your start. With Bron, we didn't really have any bad games. But again, LeBron James, historically, he's in the God mode level. I think it's fine if AD's in more of a Pau Gasol thing.
The only one, and it's crazy. This is how great LeBron is the only one you could argue is the one he still had a triple double, but he turned the ball over so much, and I don't think his defense was very good against Sacramento. That's the only one you can argue this week. He's been pretty stellar, especially the last two wins. He's averaging 36 points the last two wins.
Yeah, that's just. I mean, yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to see that at this age. We'll see. Maybe Steph can do it. I don't know, but that remains to be seen. I'll definitely be curious to see how Steph kind of ages in the next coming years. Can he still be as productive as he is now? If Steph doesn't do it, it's just hard. That's so many years. You have to be good, and we talk about being good and lucky. You have to not have one of those like Achilles tears and like a rotator cuff go. So it's not even about how good you are. I think there's players that could have done it, but injury X happened, and to not have a injury of that magnitude playing this kind of sport for 2 decades, and that's another thing to ask you to do, and that's out of your control, So we'll see how that continues. All right, so moving on, upcoming games this week. We already finished the Monday game, so we're jumping into Tuesday here since it's Monday night right now. We got Lakers against your favorite Dime, the Utah Jazz.
Trash.
So who do you have? That's right. It's an NBA in-season tournament game. The NBA in-season tournament games happen on Tuesdays and Fridays. This is the one for the Lakers against Utah, 7:00 on TNT. Who do you have winning?
Lakers, especially because it's at home. The Jazz are night and day, road and home. And in-season tournament's done the Lakers well so far. I got the Lakers winning by double Ds.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I agree as well. I don't think Utah's. I don't know. I'm not gonna say they're a bad team, but I just feel like the Lakers are gonna take care of business. So I feel pretty comfortable with that.
Maybe a little THT revenge game.
Look, I'm gonna tell my THT story here. THT was a cruel lesson for me in Tape Don't Lie. I was a big THT fan, and the season before he got traded, or the season before his last season with the Lakers, I wanted to do I did do a deep dive into the THT film. So the way I do deep dives on film for myself is when I'm trying to find out like the big picture of a player, I will look at all their games and look at the game logs. And obviously I watched them when they happened, but in the summer I look at the games, and then I try to pick 5 games where you look statistically amazing and 5 games where you look statistically bad. So I can kind of get a better picture. So I'm not going to watch 82, but I'm like, okay, let me watch 10 of them. And I watch every minute you play, and I only watch the minutes you play, and I only watch mainly your movement on the ball, off the ball. I'm not even watching the basketball. I'm watching you. And the basketball is like, if it's on you, cool. But if not, it doesn't matter. I'm watching you. And I write down my thoughts before the film, and I write down my thoughts during the tape, and then after. And that's when I knew THT wasn't the guy that I thought he was going to be. Because I was like, again, the tape is in line. I'm like, oh, you don't know the offense. You're not good on the wings defensively. You're kind of not get lucky, but you kind of just like when things break down, you just kind of cook a little bit, and it's exciting. But when I actually watched it, I was like, I don't think you have the tools for this. And I was like, oh no. And it was so awkward because on Twitter, everyone's so excited. I'm like, I watched the tape, and if the tape and my eyes are right, this isn't gonna go the way we think it is. And unfortunately for THT, that's kind of came true, and he hasn't really like materialized into like a potential all-star. So no, I do not think we're gonna get a THT revenge game against the Utah Jazz. But I'll be curious to see. It was disappointing. It's tough when you find out Santa Claus isn't real. And that was my moment with THT there. All right, so for Wednesday, Clippers, Spurs again. I thought they just played the Spurs. I guess they're going back to back there. What's gonna happen this time?
We're gonna win again because they don't have Devin Vassell. They're not a very good team. They're not even a very good team with Devin Vassell. But without him, they're no. The Clippers gonna win.
Wemby
again.
doesn't get hot from the field. The shooting doesn't hit for Wemby.
Even if he does, we're still gonna have too much. They can't guard us. I mean, we're a pretty good team with James Harden starting and Westbrook coming off the bench. Like it's definitely it's back to we're in the conversation.
Okay. No, I kind of agree with that. It's always tough to win back-to-backs like that. Like I said, I usually just give you one of the L's just because something weird will happen.
Hard to beat the same NBA team 2 times in a row, but San Antonio and the Clippers are just the gap. Like legitimately, like no disrespect to Wemby, but Harden might be their best player if they put him in the Spurs right now. He's still that good.
I think so. Yeah, I would probably agree with that. Yeah, no, he'd be that good. You're right. All right. After that, we have, or not after that, same night we have Lakers versus Dallas. Ooh, I mean, Dallas has been so good. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go. Yeah, it will be fun. You got Jay Kidd, coaching. Used to be part of the Lakers coaching staff. Obviously, Luka's cooking. Dallas has looked great. Kyrie's in action. So and Dallas has just been so good. I have to give it to Dallas. I think that Dallas takes care of business there. What about you?
Is it in Dallas?
I believe so. No, it's here. It's here in LA. It's here in LA.
Man, that would be 4 Laker wins in a row. I'm going to go with an L, honestly. But it's going to be really close. It's going to be like another thriller. The Lakers have had some thrillers with Dallas at Staples Center lately. Maxi Kleber game winner.
Back-to-back. Another back-to-back? You think it's going to be a
Well, you're playing on Wednesday and Thursday or Wednesday and Tuesday?
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Tuesday, oh yeah, tomorrow's Utah. Oh yeah, loss. I'm going to loss.
Yeah, right? Like, I just think it's tough. I mean, we just saw the back-to-back fiasco, and yeah. So okay, we'll see what happens. I always tell people that too. I'm pulling for a win, but like if you're asking me my professional opinion, I'm gonna have to say yeah, it's gonna be tough to win on the back-to-back against Dallas. So really, it can go the other way. If they have to beat Utah, if they lose to Utah, and then you have to go the next night against Luka and them, you don't want to do that. So beat the Jazz and then give yourself the feeling of, okay, we won 3 in a row. We win the 4th, great. If not, also it's an in-season tournament game with Utah. So there's going to be maybe a little bit more focus on it just to, ensure they get a good placement and all that. So we'll see. All right. Friday, we have, I believe, let me double check. I think it's Clippers, New Orleans, right?
Yes, I'll be there. In-season tournament, I believe.
Yeah. The Friday nights. Yeah, you're getting into it. I see it.
Well, you just said Tuesdays and Fridays.
Yeah. But you pointed it out. I think that's you kind of buying into the concept here.
Well, the court is interesting when you go to a game and see it.
Oh yeah, how was the Clippers court? I saw it on TV, of course, but I haven't seen it in person. How did it look in person?
I like the color. The only thing is I don't like the clips in the middle that we have on our city edition jerseys this year. It just looks very like a kid made it in like computer science class in elementary school. But
what do you prefer? You want like Los Angeles? You want like what would you want?
Clippers, Los Angeles. I just don't even like that shade of navy blue. It's just like we've never worn it. Like I don't think it's just not it. But New Orleans, we struggle with the last couple of years. Like in this Kawhi, Paul George era, we've struggled with New Orleans. But it always feels like one of their big 3 is out: CJ, Brandon Ingram, or Zion. So you know what? I'm going to say the Clippers get another win here and build a little streak. We had a 4-game winning streak after the 5-game initial losing streak when we got Russ. Same thing with Harden, 5-game losing streak. We've now won 2. If we beat the Spurs on Wednesday, that would be 3, and then New Orleans makes 4. So I think we're going to do the same.
You know what? I'm with you. I think New Orleans, I think someone will be missing from there. Just a hunch I have. And I think they keep it going and they get the form together, build that camaraderie, feel like, hey, we're onto something here. So I'm going with you with that one. All right. Saturday, I believe we have both teams playing. We got Lakers against the Cavs, and then we have Clippers, Dallas. So Lakers, Cavs, I'm going to go with the Lakers win there. I just think they're going to take care of business there. They'll have a couple days off from that Wednesday, so there's like a little bit of a cushion there.
In LA here.
No. They're going to be at Cleveland.
Ooh.
So I'm going to go with the Lakers. Lakers are going to take care of business. I feel like they'll have enough rest because obviously they're going to travel. Let me just double check. Yeah, they're at Cleveland. So yeah, I'm going to go Lakers there. What do you think? Do you think Cleveland gets revenge there on LeBron leaving again?
I'm going with the Cavs in a close one.
Wow. Okay. And how about Clippers Dallas? Your favorite, Luka?
I'll say they break our streak.
Okay. I'm gonna go with the same thing. I guess we just both think highly of Dallas at this point. That one's gonna be on NBA TV, so it will be national.
They're just in very good form right now, so I'll give them the credit.
Yeah. They're probably with Murray's injury, they're probably right now the best team in the West. I don't do power rankings, but if I did, I would probably put them at the top at this point.
People are talking Minnesota, but I haven't watched them play in a while, so I got to check them out.
I have to watch them more too. I find it hard to buy into Minnesota. My Minnesota stock, I'm like, you know what? You can buy some. I'm good.
Do you think what's your main issue? Do you think Ant is not ready to lead a team past the first round or something?
I like Ant. I just don't like much of the rest of the team.
Gobert. Yeah, Gobert.
Yeah, Gobert and all that. I just don't think. And then unless they get, even if they get a top seed, I would have to depend on the matchup. I still struggle seeing them get out of the first round. Depending on the matchup. If they play someone weak, like I don't know, if somehow it's New Orleans or something, sure. But if I just struggle to see them winning a 7-game series against many of the Western Conference teams.
Their second best player is Gobert right now, right? On the way they're playing, I would think. That's what I've heard more of. Yeah, I mean, I made a declaration back in my Utah trash hating day. I still hate him, but I said that Rudy Gobert was never going to be the second best player on a conference finals team. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm never going to go away from it.
Yeah, if the playoffs started now, which obviously we're really guessing here, they would probably play the Rockets. I would definitely take them over the Rockets, but that's about it. After that, it would be Mavericks or Kings in the second round. Yeah, they're not.
Clippers would be the 11th seed right now, right?
Yep.
Okay, well,
so we got a ways to go, and obviously this is going to change. The Warriors is a 10 seed. I think they'll get it together. It's way too early for that. But yeah, technically the Timberwolves have the best record right now. But yeah, I just struggle to buy stock into any Rudy Gobert team. Anthony Edwards is the guy though. He's phenomenal. So I'm a big fan of his game. All right, cool. And then we have on Monday, we'll see how we're going to do the pod because we have quite a few games here. We got Lakers at Philly at 4 o'clock on NBA TV, and we got Clippers versus Denver, 7:30, also on NBA TV. So I guess we're just going to stay on NBA TV all day there. So Lakers, Philly, personally, I have the Lakers winning that one. How about you?
You're playing in Philly?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm taking the Sixers. The Philadelphia Clippers with Nicholas Batum, Patrick Beverley, and Robert Covington. Of course, I'm taking them. They're in great form right now. I love the way they play.
For a minute there, I'm like, did he accidentally name the team wrong? Then I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, Philly's good. I have a lot of Philly friends. You know a couple of Philly people too, so we'll see what happens there. And then Clippers, Denver. You know what? I feel like I'm gonna go Clippers again. I'm gonna say they're gonna win.
Yeah, we're gonna win. We're at home, in season tournament. We're gonna win this one.
No, not in season tournament. It's a Monday game.
Oh, right. Okay, well, I'll be there. It's gonna be that's Reggie Jackson's return game.
Yeah,
that's gonna be. I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's a huge deal for Clipper fans.
No, 100%. I think Reggie Jackson. Yeah, it's one of those he's one of those fan favorites. There's certain teams we love them more than any other team's gonna love them.
Yeah,
and that's what he is for that. So I 100% agree.
He's part of our most successful season, and he was such a big part of it because when Kawhi went down, we needed scoring, and the man literally turned into Kyrie in the playoffs that year. So yeah,
I mean every team has that. Yeah, for sure. They have those players that we love them from that moment. All right, so we'll see what happens there. Really excited for this week's slew of games. Again, everyone, if you celebrate Thanksgiving, enjoy the turkey, enjoy the sides. Dime, actually, give me your top 3 Thanksgiving foods.
Well, I would put turkey in there just because it's got to be in there. It's the signature. But there's this cream corn that my mom's cousin make that's really good. And then my mom makes mashed potatoes that I would take over any mashed potatoes in the world. So I would say those are my 3 favorite. You?
All right, I'm actually gonna look at my Slack because I'm traveling to Texas to visit family, and then my boss is like, "I will help accommodate that if you tell me what your three your three foods are, and then if I agree with them." So let me pull it up here because I forgot. I know I said turkey because, like you said, I'm like it's kind of a safe answer, but it's also like that's my truth. Like I'm down with the turkey. So all right, let me go here. Apparently, me and my boss he messaged me a lot. All right, let's see if I can pull it up here. So we got turkey. I got mashed potatoes and stuffing. I really like stuffing. The sides are really the thing, but again, if you do the turkey right, I mean, how often are you really eating turkey? Like I feel like it's like you said, it's a staple. So give me that. Give me the mashed potatoes. Give me the stuffing, and we're good to go.
Yeah, feel that. You can't go wrong there.
All right, let's do it. All right, so that's it here for basketball on Figueroa. That is the end of episode 5. I'm Edwin Garcia. That was / is Darian Vaziri, aka Dime Dropper, and we out.